expatriate employment levy has been unveiled. President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday rolled out the scheme. It is a mandatory contribution imposed on organizations that employ expatriate workers in Nigeria. While launching the EEL at the Council Chamber Presidential Villa, Abuja, the President expressed confidence that the levy will improve revenue, encourage indigenization, and balance employment in the country. Describing the initiative as a game changer, the President urged foreign companies operating in the country to employ more Nigerians, balance employment opportunities, and close the wage gap between the expatriates and the Nigerian labor force. What will be the impact of this initiative? How would implementation look like? These are some of the questions we'll be seeking answers. So, thanks for joining us. I am Victoria Clinton. Welcome to Nigeria Today. Joining me tonight to discuss the expatriate employment levy is a public affairs analyst, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Now, even though we've introduced it a little bit, the expatriate employment levy, we want to know exactly what it means in a broader view, and if something similar had been in existence before now.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I think it's a new development, and of course it came to public limelight towards the end of last year as an additional source that government can harness, to boost its revenue. By the way, a soft source, it's somewhat different from taxation, from the personal income tax that expatriates are supposed to pay, and somewhat different also from the fee they're supposed to pay, further to fulfilling their expatriate quota. This is a soft levy that is mandatory in the sense that it will go straight to the central post, to the federal post, rather than states and local states that often get the personal income tax. Before now, you find a situation where expatriates move from state to state, and if they move from one state to the other, it is possible that they evade any kind of contribution. But this contribution is new in this because it is different from personal income tax, like I said, different from the fee that they have to pay, which is legitimate for them to be able to come into this country. But of course, it go into the central post. It will help the evasion of taxation, and of course, if it is well implemented, at the end of the day, government hopes to rake about $1.5 to $2 trillion annually if it is properly implemented. It's a kind of contribution separate from taxation, as the case could be, and that's why you find that reception for it is overwhelming. People are happy with it because Nigeria has been sleeping on its rights, over these form of income generation, much unlike some other countries that has been witnessing huge number of expatriates. It's a source of income that countries that are in need of revenue often embark upon, often implement, to boost their revenue source. A soft measure, as the case could be. Saudi Arabia is doing it, Japan is doing it, and some other countries. So beyond the cash additional cash that will come in, it's also the possibility of helping us to regulate the influx of expatriates. There are people that you call expatriates becoming more like a buzzword. People, who are doing jobs that ordinary Nigerians can probably do, or that even the regular Nigerian can probably do. But because of the toga of expatriates, because of the advantage that some of the big companies, the big brands can take over the system, they bring in technicians, bricklayers, people who do manual labor that you can find competent Nigerians doing. They bring them out, without any form of contribution, and of course, they earn funds here. And of course, at the end of the day, what happens to the funds? The funds are repatriated, further putting pressure, on the already scarce foreign exchange. But this measure now, when it's been implemented, is supposed to bring some form of control mechanism into the process, boost local employment, increase indigenization, and encourage companies to look rather inward rather than thinking about bringing in foreign workers.
Okay, having heard that, you know, when this present administration came into power, the first thing, one of the first things the president noticed was the rate of unemployment, and he frowned at it. Now, with this initiative, how does it align with the present administration's, you know, broader economic goals?
Oh, in many ways. One, the government is talking about Renew Hope, and secondly, integral to Renew Hope is the fact that they need to create jobs for people, the teeming population, particularly youths. Remember that we're talking about the youth board, youth unemployment, which is causing increasing youth restiveness. And what is causing this restiveness? Joblessness. And what part of the reasons why we have joblessness is the fact that opportunities available to them are being taken over by their foreign compatriots. It's not to say that we're in an age of globalization somewhat. It's not to say that foreign skills are not welcomed, but to what extent do we want to welcome foreign skills when those skills are present here? You know, and you find people who, for reasons around maybe they simply want to sabotage the system, or they simply want to take advantage of the lack of control in a system, you know, to populate the employment space, even where we have local expertise, local resources that can fill such spaces, you know. And they are able to do this because the control mechanisms are weak, because we are sleeping on our rights, because there are some additional contribution that they're supposed to make that they are not making. So they find it very easy, rather cheap, you know, to bring in as much foreign labor as possible, using excuses for being a construction company, for being a mining company, for being in the supermarket chain, to bring in these fellows, you know, where you can find Nigerians actively participating. Are you not surprised that you are in a country where you see the supermarket chain, for instance, the restaurant chain, being managed, you know, by foreigners? Is it not surprising? Do you not find it strange? Are you not surprised to see construction companies sometimes where you have expert engineers, qualified Nigerians, you still find them being managed, you know, by foreigners in a place where you can, in a situation where you can have Nigerians who are equally competent? Are we not also, it's not also interesting that there are some sectors in Nigeria where you have indigents, you know, and they are doing expertly, they are doing very well in those sectors. The banking sector, for instance, the telecom sector, for instance, largely these sectors are managed by Nigerians. And if they are being managed by Nigerians, you know, because of control, regulatory mechanisms, what says that other sectors cannot be well managed as well? The idea behind expatriates is that you bring them in, you know, they make their contribution over some years, you know, give them the opportunity to grow local skills, and by the time they finish, they exit. But what we've been witnessing, you know, in many years, which we've not done anything about, is that you find expatriates coming in, remaining behind, bringing in more of their kids and kin, you know, and populating the employment space and denying Nigerians the opportunity to get employed, you know. So what we are saying is that yes, we welcome foreign skills, we welcome the cross-fertilization of knowledge, the importation of skills, you know, but at the same time we need some moderation, and that moderation can come through some kind of contributory mechanism that are soft, that are not necessarily out to discourage foreign investment, you know. They are not necessarily to discourage what do you call it now, you know, create a business environment, you know, foreigners from having a smooth business environment, you know, but of course to bring in some moderations and some sort of control so that there can be some balance here and there.
Okay. Now, earlier on you talked about control mechanism being weak. Now, you know, oftentimes experts have come on the program and say we don't lack policies. What perhaps is the problem is implementation.
Absolutely.
Now, in this wonderful initiative that is geared towards, you know, ensuring that we up our economy, you know, in terms of revenue and all of that. Now, what kind of strategy, in your opinion, can be adopted to ensure that we have the challenges or loopholes, you know, are being kind of addressed, or will I say the loopholes are being taken care of in terms of implementation?
Excellently. Yeah, excellent. I agree with you. We often have problems with implementation. We have laws, regulations that are there, but our bane is often that they are implemented in the breach, well, maybe they are even never implemented at all, But this arrangement, from what I've read, is a collaboration between the public and the private sector. So if you say that the public sector is often lethargic, often weak in terms of implementation, you may not be able to say that of the private sector, because private sector, for instance, in Nigeria is very vibrant. And of course, apart from weaknesses, inadequacies here and there, they drive the economy. And that's what we expect of an ideal private sector. So in a situation where you're having private sector collaborating with government to drive this, to implement this, of course, we expect that it will be successful. We have had this in the past, several public-private sector collaboration, and we have had success registered, not because the public sector is not not because the public sector is completely weak, but because we have an efficient, productive private sector that is interested. Yes, you may say because they're also profit oriented, but in being profit oriented, they are also efficient and productive and contributing to the economy of the country. So it's a welcome. It's a win-win situation whereby you give and you take. You give and you take. Nobody is at a loss. But look, the levy is not just for all foreigners, not just for all foreign workers. There are sections of foreign workers that are excluded. Diplomats are excluded, from what I've read. International,
I was about coming to that
multilateral
point.
organizations.
I was about coming to that point.
Okay.
What are the exemptions? Because definitely it's not.
Of course, diplomats are exempted. Foreign service workers are exempted. Multilateral organizations, World Bank, United Nations, UNESCO workers, they're exempted. But we have so many expatriates in this country working in industries, in the construction sector, in the manufacturing sector, the supermarket sector. And yes, to come in, they pay a fee, they pay their visa fee, maybe another regular fee, further to fulfilling their expatriate quota, and they pay the kind of tax that you and I pay, personal income tax. Beyond that, they don't pay anything. They pay nothing else until now, which is not proper. Which means that if they are not paying anything here, they are not also paying anything in their country, which means there's a kind of escape, there's a kind of window for them to escape some other charges, So this new levy is catching up with those sectors of workers, such that the country will benefit in the manner in which other countries have been benefiting. When you see Nigerians working abroad, you see how productive they can be, because they know if they do not work, it's going to be difficult for them to survive. Foreign countries, Western countries, for instance, are not as communal as we are here. So if they don't work, if they are not productive, they are not likely to survive. And of course, they pay their taxes. They pay other levies. Apart from tax, they pay different kinds of taxes. In England, for instance, you pay council tax, you pay television license, you pay vehicle license tax, you pay water rates, and we'll be tidy if you do not pay all these things. But those are things that make the system function. So why are we sleeping on our own rights? Failing to take the opportunities, to take advantage of opportunities that we have, and these are legitimate advantages, which is why these expatriate levy is it looks welcome, especially at a time where revenue is dwindling. Our mainstay oil that we depend on, is dwindling, and of course we are grappling with debt crisis. We need soft approach, in the short term, to getting more revenue. In the long term, we're talking about steel development, we're talking about agriculture, we're talking about mineral resources, solid minerals, but those are long-term measures. In the short term, we have to think about some of these measures, which is why the courage of the Tinubu administration is commendable in this regard.
Oh, okay. Now, with this initiative, what sectors or industries are we expecting to see, remarkable improvement in terms of employment in the country? Well,
you could see expatriates populate the construction sector. They are there. They are in the mining sector. They are in the oil and gas sector. They are in the manufacturing sector. They are in the agriculture sector, right? They're also in the supermarket chain. You know, they even come to small businesses like, maybe I shouldn't call it small anyway, businesses like restaurant, you know, hospitality business, the hotel industry. They're all there. We're not saying they should go away. We let them stay, work, you know, but contribute to the national purse and through this quota. And if you're not contributing, such that government to get more money, you know, to boost the economy, to reflect the economy for people to get job, then of course they will be exiting, and Nigerians will fill the space. Yeah, Nigerians will fill the space. Imagine what it costs to bring in one expatriate into this country. You are bringing them in, you know, you are paying for you're paying for their flights, you are accommodating them, you are paying for their car, you are paying for their comfort, you know, for a job that a Nigerian can do, you know, a lot of money, and you're paying them probably in naira, which they will convert to hard currency and take out, you know, depleting our foreign reserve, putting further pressure on foreign exchange, creating more problem, you know, for us at that level, you know. And imagine a situation where you can avoid such importation of professional, you know, replaced by a local that will have a plenty anyway. Don't indirectly at the end of the day to rub up positively on the economy across all the sectors. So not just one sector will be it will benefit practically all the sectors where the expatriates are involved. Fine if they want to bring them in, but let them make some contribution.
Okay,
some other contribution. Yeah.
While you were talking, I was just thinking. You're talking about them paying a levy. What if? Okay, we're talking about creating jobs. You know, reducing the unemployment rate. Some of these expatriates are so comfortable here that even if you ask them to pay a particular levy, they'll just readily pay it and still continue. So how do we create?
And that's what I said, right? Yes. When they pay, it means that government will have more money, right? So government will have more money to work. Government will have more money. Maybe to expand their workforce for their agencies, which means if they're expanding workforce for their agencies, it means that more people will be employed, right? Maybe to create more industries, they will have more money to put, to give to the subnationals, the sub-sovereign, the states, the local government, which means that they will also function better. And functioning better will also mean the opportunity to employ more people. But again, we are not taking it for granted that we also have to call on our governments at all levels to be much more responsive than they are doing now. So when more money comes, it shouldn't be, you know, for profligacy. It shouldn't be for squandering. It should be, you know, channeled towards what will help the real sector, what will make the economy much more productive, and what will enhance and engender good living among the citizens. You know, we have to also chip that in. You know, not just talking about raising money through EEL, through expatriate levy, and not being concerned about how these monies are expended. That's also very, very important. So we're just assuming a circumstance that when more money comes in, the money will be properly used. And if it is properly used, of course, it will be used towards dealing with all the major problems that government is having now, or that we are having as citizens. And what are these problems? Insecurity. What else? You know, kidnapping, banditry around insecurity. And of course, poor health facilities, poor educational facilities, you know, joblessness among youths, you know, restlessness, etc., etc. What is causing all these social ills? They are caused by inadequacies in the system. And one reason that you can adduce for inadequacies is the lack of funds, the lack of resources. You know, we are not a very rich nation, we are a very poor country. You know, but in saying that we are poor does not mean that we do not have resources. It does not also mean that there are no additional sources for us to raise resources. So if we have these additional sources, why should we not take advantage of them?
Okay, talking about that, we are a very poor country. Yeah, some people we like smile and shake their head and say, "Really?
Oh yeah, we are very poor. You know, what's our budget? What's the budget of Nigeria compared to a state or even a university in the United States of America? You know, we're not very rich, but you know, but against our background, well, if we say we're very poor, it's just being realistic. Okay. Look at our population. You know, look at our resources compared to our population. Do we have enough resources to cater for the population that we have? 225 million. And what's our national budget? If you look at it, if you break it down, because budgets are sometimes measured on the basis of population. You know, if you look at it, you know that it's not consequential enough. But the final argument is that we can use the little that we have to get maximum benefit for the people.
I know earlier on when we were talking about implementation, you talked something about, you said something about collaboration between the private and the public sector. However, they still need some form of monitoring, even the private sector needs that.
Yeah,
now, how do we ensure compliance, you know, and of course enforcement of these of this initiative? Is a wonderful initiative from what you have explained. We could benefit a lot from it if well implemented.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so
the project belongs to the Ministry of Interior, you know, and it's going to be managed by the Immigration Service. Okay. Right? The Nigerian Immigration Service is going to manage it in collaboration with the private sector companies or firms that are developing it or that have conceptualized it, you know, sold it to government, and government bought it, just as it operates in some other countries. So with that, you can see that there's a chain of command, you know, there's a chain of interests. You know, before it was finally signed, you can be rest assured that there were so many agencies that were involved, including the Infrastructure Concessionary Regulatory Commission, you know, the Bureau of Public Enterprise probably, and some other agencies. So it's a network of agencies, interagency collaboration actually took place, you know, and of course, if there are infractions, if people are not complying, there are many mechanisms for apprehension, prosecution, and sanctioning. And what we should be calling on now is for companies, you know, I mean, for all the agencies responsible to be up to the task, you know, to be conscientious in delivering the goods. If that is done, of course, we will not have any problem. And that's why we're also saying again that companies that, or maybe interests, you know, that find this inappropriate, you know, government should watch them and ask, you know, have you been compliant? Have you been paying your tax appropriately? You know, what level of people have you been employing? Are they not expatriates? Because any company that is interested, you know, in Nigeria, that is committed to the progress and development of this country, should actually welcome this, you know, because it's not something that is new. It's new to us in Nigeria, but it's not new around the world.
So what would be your closing thought? You know, this what would be your, you know, advice to government and even the private sector on these? Yeah,
my advice is just for us to, whether foreigners, whether locals, we should just regard this country as ours, you know, and of course, wherever corner we find ourselves, we should feel that we have a duty, you know, to make the country work. And in making the country work simply means doing what you are supposed to do correctly. Do not circumvent processes. Do not sabotage efforts. That's actually a bid. People are sabotaging the country in every corner. You know, and those in the financial sector, you know, are also they are culprits. One of the main culprits, you know, and that's where we are now. So, if you're a company, a foreign company, or a local company, and you're expected to make contribution, please make that contribution as appropriately as possible. And do not say, oh, it's going to be embezzled, so I'm not going to make the contribution. Make the contribution first, play your own part, and let others play their own part. You know, let everybody within the units and the whole, you know, be conscientious and diligent and dutiful in playing their parts. By the time all these come together, there will be progress.
Thank you very much. Well, with that, we'll wrap up today's episode of Nigeria Today. A very big thank you to Professor Adeniyi Abiodun, Public Affairs Analyst. Thank you so much for your thoughts.
My pleasure.
And your contribution. And thank you for being part of the program. Don't forget, Nigeria Today is weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also watch these and other episodes on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 hub. I am your carrier, Clinton. Goodbye.